All right, here we go. Okay, so. All right, so we spoke about last time, and this is going to be the focus today as well, is that the world as we know it, all of physical world that we experience, receives its existence from the spiritual counterparts, called the koiches. Koiches, the powers, the forces, those are the spiritual creations which are the source for all physical activity, all physical creation, everything that's here. And we mentioned that the malachim are the ones that sustain that existence, and they initiate changes when changes need to be made, and they're kind of they are also different in the sense that they have a degree of thought. They have speech, right? They have reason, and in that sense they're very different than the koiches. The koiches are simply powers. That's what they are. They are forces, spiritual forces that cause physical existences. But the malachim are different in the sense that they are A, sentient, and B, they are the ones who maintain, they're the ones who affect change and all of that. So that's what we covered until now, and that's what we're going to be continuing with this week. Any questions? Jody?
Nope.
No. Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right, here we go. Dalet. So Vahine. According to this, according to what we've established until now, Techilas Kol HaAvoyos, the beginning, the essence of every thing that exists, every existence, L'mayla b'koiches elyonim, actually is up in the koiches that are on high, V'seifam l'mata b'shvalim, and the end result, by the time it's done, it comes down to this world, and that is the reality as it manifests itself. V'chein, and similarly, Tchilas Kol HaInyan HaMischadshim. The same is true of the beginning of anything that changes, anything new that goes on. This is all beginning Lamaila. It starts up there in the spiritual realm, V'seifam Lamata, and then it ends down here in the physical realm. So it's not about there being two counterparts. It's not about two equal things. It's that one is the source and one is the product. So the spiritual world is the source and the physical world is the product. So everything we see around us is nothing more than a product of the spiritual world. So if you were to look at a projector, right? So you got a projector screen and you're seeing what's on the screen. You're not seeing the source. The source is on the film that's in the projector. All you're seeing is what comes, it's the product of that. It's what comes out of it. And so the reality of the world that we're in, that's just the projector screen. What we're seeing is the projector screen. It's not the projector, it's not the film. The projector we can say is Hashem, and the film is the Torah, whatever, but as far as this is concerned, it's those koches. It's these forces, these spiritual forces, which are the source for the existence that we have around us. Okay, does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, however, prat echad yesh sheyotzim min haklal hazeh. There is one point, one detail in creation that is an exception to this rule. V'hu, and this is mashenegeya lebechirase shel adam. That which is subject to the choices of man. Meaning to say, everything is part of these koiches, everything is part of this spiritual existence that manifests itself physically in this world, except for our choices. Our choices are not part of that world. Because since Hashem wants, I did. Everyone said Dalet. Did we not do Gimel?
Too late.
We didn't do Gimel. Oh, wow.
I don't understand this.
guys are all fired.
Can't blame me. I wasn't here.
That's even worse. All right, Doc, thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. Okay.
Even listening.
All right, let's go back to Gimel. Wow. All right, that's going to be a 10-minute penalty on you guys. You're staying overtime. All right, back to Gimel.
Next time you ask what page, you speak up, okay?
Well, I think you guys got the right page.
Or the right
You're
section.
on the right page, but I was just... And my head was wrapped in something else.
Oh, there's the
The
problem.
deliciousness of that pour over.
Somebody asked a question on a different chat that on a Gemara, and I totally I was wrapped up in that.
That's not okay. No, there's nothing okay about that. Let's go. All right, here we go. Gimel, right where we're supposed to be. All right. Anyone else paying attention? Is Rabbi Goldman the only one who knows what's going on here? Wow. Okay. Gimel v'amnam, however, Iker Metzias Ha'olam, the main reality of the world, Umatzavai Ha'amiti, and its true existence, Hu b'koiches ha'hem al-yonim, it's in these spiritual forces. That's the reality, that's the source, that's the core, that's the real, true existence of the world. V'tolda ismasha b'hem, and the products of those, Hu masha b'gashmi ha'shalom, that's what's here in the physical world. So the physical world is, as we've said, a product of the spiritual existence. V'zeh, this is, bein b'masha mitchilas abriya, both that which is from the beginning of creation, ubein b'masha mitchalish b'yischalfus hazmanim, and also that which changes over the course of time. Everything is rooted in these spiritual powers that were created at the beginning of creation, and they contain within them the existence for all changes that were going to come in the future, and the manifestation of that is the world that we live in with all of the changes that are going to come and have come over the course of time. The Hainu, and this is, because based on that which was created within these powers, and based on the order that they were ordered in, and the boundaries that they were given, the same is true for everything that came afterwards, based on this system, this chain reaction, this system of traveling through from the spiritual down to the physical, the way Hashem wanted it to be. And based on what was new and what will be new. The same applies to the physical, that which was new and that which will be new. So meaning to say, and this is something we've already explained because we reviewed this, even though we hadn't done it, is that everything that is in the spiritual world really was there from the beginning, or was really there from the moment of creation, and that contained within it everything that was going to eventually cause all of the changes and all of the realities, and all of that is part of the creation of the physical world, because that's the source for the physical world. Again, that's the film which creates the movie of the reality that we live in.
When we say new, we just mean like the next generation type thing?
It means like there's a hurricane, right? Something had to change for that to happen. There had to be some sort of atmospheric disturbance or whatever that makes something like that happen, or an earthquake, or a heat wave, anything.
But to
that
feel it could change all that,
and
right?
the truth, yes. But the truth is that this is all. That I'm just talking about, like in the natural world. There's also things that happen with people, as long as it's not a person's choice. You know, somebody getting sick, someone winning the lottery. All these things are built in. All these things are built into the creation, regardless of my choices.
So new just means a change.
Change from the standard of the way things have been running until now, right? Like when, well, he doesn't talk about this specifically, but I think that he's including miracles in this as well. So like when the sea split, that was programmed in initially. I don't know that for
part
sure.
Of creation, that's what they said. It was built into creation.
Yeah, but that's a miraculous event. I think he's also included in that.
I think those were created in the Shemoshes, the miraculous
the
10 things that were created.
yes, but the Yam Suf is not part of that list, and all the other miracles that happened. So I don't know, but the point is that everything
they're
that
not
happens that's
above
not part of a
nature.
choice, it's not a part of a choice of a person. Everything else is built in. So changes are just what we view as changes because there's a certain standard course of events, and then sometimes that goes off a little bit. And again, that can be from something as massive as a landslide or an earthquake, or it could be something as simple as a person tripping and falling. Like all these things are kind of built in. The only thing that's the exception, and this is what we're going to learn in the next thing, if we get there, that we got there already, is the choices. The choices a person makes, those are not part of this design. That's separate. That's removed from the whole design.
Well, if we have a whole bunch of people making choices, do their choices interfere with our choices?
It's a very good question. So I don't know if he's going to talk about that or not. It's a very deep question. There are different opinions. Some say no. Some say absolutely not. There's no way that a choice that someone else makes can affect me. How can that be? Okay, so let me give you an example. Brad, you might remember this in Chicago years ago, 25 years ago, I'm going to say. There was some guy who went around on a Friday night outside of Shoals shooting people as they came out of Shoals. Okay?
Can't forget that.
Right. So, crazily enough, nobody was harmed. 6 people were shot.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine has a bullet in his leg, permanently, totally fine. Another fellow found a bullet in his jacket pocket. How does that happen? Somebody made a choice. He's going to go shooting people. The answer is, Hashem said it's not time for these people to go. So you can make your choice, but it's not going to necessarily end up where you want it to end up. Which assassination was it in the White House that the secretary was shot first and the bullet bounced off her braces? She was fine because she had braces. It's like people can make choices, but at the end of the day, if Hashem says it's not time, it's not time. So there is definitely an approach, and
Oh my gosh.
new safety mechanism, right?
So when idiots
So-
don't stop for my stop sign and turn in front of me, the reason I don't get hit is
Because Hashem says it's not your time yet. Don't try it though.
Yeah,
Not recommended.
it happens on a
Make sure it's
daily
not your
basis.
choice.
It happens on a daily basis.
But I think there is another approach. And the Chovos HaLevavos goes with that, and I believe Ramchal also goes with that. I have to think through it again in Mesilas Yesharim. I believe he touches on it a little bit. But there are others that say that no, that a person's choice can affect someone else. And it gets very complicated to understand how that works. How can my choice affect someone else's destiny? It's complex. So there are different opinions as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know if he's going to talk about that or not. As far as I've gotten, he hasn't. But that doesn't mean he won't.
Think about it, because it gets complicated because
It does.
if my choice can affect me,
Yes.
so then my choice can affect. If you can make a choice,
Mm-hmm.
in other words, then my choice isn't being affected. If I choose to shoot someone, so then my choice is not being effective.
It's not being affected, but you can still do what you chose to do.
You're saying my result won't be what I wanted.
Lo yalachem alacha ligmar. The end result of what happens, the outcome of your choices is not in your control. That's everyone agrees to. The outcome of your choices is not in your control.
So, okay.
If I decide I'm going to wake up in the morning, whether I actually get up is not up to me. I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm
So
kidding.
it's not like a
That
choose
was
your,
just
it's not like
Dr.
a,
Kreka.
it's not like a choose your own adventure.
No, but it's these examples. If I choose to do something that affects somebody else, that other person's mazel is going to get in the way. And it's going to say, no, you can't do this to me.
Is it just for like big time things, or
No, it's for anything.
for like even the smallest thing, like when my students decide not to get their work done, it affects me because then I have to.
Yeah,
Like-
for sure.
It adds more work to me
Right.
later,
Yes,
that kind of thing.
yes.
So I can tell them that they need to stop doing that because it's affecting me.
Well, it depends which opinion you go with. According to one opinion, the answer is no, you can't say that. How dare you? Also,
Say
you
that
might hurt
every
their
day.
feelings. You're going to get fired.
I probably will.
Not allowed to say anything that hurts anyone's feelings
No,
anymore
You
these days.
could choose, but Hashem doesn't necessarily carry out.
Correct. Correct. Look at Bilam, right? The prime example. Bilam went to go curse the Jews, and what happened? Hashem didn't let him. They're not to be cursed. You can try as hard as you want. You can make your choice and you're going to be held accountable for your choices. But what actually happens is not up to you. The end result is never within our control.
So shouldn't that bode well for evil people?
Should that bode well for evil people?
Yeah, like because then their choices aren't fully being. They could say, "Don't carry out my choice."
Yeah, they certainly can. But like I said, we're held accountable for our choices. In other words, someone asked me, they're like, what's the biggest proof of God in the world? I said the Holocaust. What are you talking about? I said because there's no way in the natural world that could have ever happened. The fact that someone was able to do that with such effectiveness is not natural. It's never happened before. It'll never happen again. That's the most unnatural thing. So how did that happen? Do you think that it was one person's
Stalin was worse.
brilliance and one person's effectiveness and his hate that was able to accomplish all that? Of course not. He had a plan, and Hashem made it all happen, way better than he ever expected. Because it was the time. Hashem said, this is what needs to happen, this is what's going to happen. Now he's going to get punished for making that choice. It's his choice, and we are held accountable for our choices. Bilam's getting punished for his trying to curse the Jews, even though he never did. He gets punished for that. The Egyptians are punished. Why are the Egyptians punished? Hashem promised Avraham a couple hundred years earlier that his descendants were going to be enslaved by a nation and they'll be tortured and it would be difficult and that for a couple hundred years. So Paro was like, what do you mean? I'm just doing what Hashem said. Hashem said this is what's going to happen. I'm just doing my part. Why were they all killed? The answer is because you get judged based on your choices. And you made a bad choice. What actually happens is not up to you. That's not in your control. The end result's never in our control. Just ask Stephen. He's been trying to fix the shul for a year. It's not in your control. There's only so much you can do. But you will be held accountable for everything.
You choose to play golf, but you have very little impact on the score.
You choose to play golf and have very little impact on the score.
Depends on your skill.
Well, you might want to
Tiger Woods,
consider
you do.
playing when you're not supposed to be at a class. You might do better. Or being at class, that's good too.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so that's the idea. The outcome of things is certainly not within your control, but whether one person's choices can affect someone else seems to be a matter of dispute. Okay. All right, let us continue. Okay. However, Hametzius, Hamatzav, V'Haseder, the reality of the world and the order of things. Doc, I'm going to mute you. Is that okay? I don't really care if you think it's okay. You're getting muted. Okay. So the reality of existence and the order, the seder, the way things are ordered, the way they're set up, and all the different changes and the distinctions within the koiches, that's based on what is applicable to them, what is appropriate for them and important for them, based on the importance of the truth of their position in the existence of the world. And all of the reality and the order and the designation of everything that happens here in the physical world, that is just it comes down the chain from those higher sources based on what is necessary for reality at that place. So, just in short, as we already recapped once, we'll recap it again now that we've seen it. The source of everything that exists physically is in the spiritual realm, and what we experience here is simply a manifestation of that. Always think of the film and the projector. That's how to picture it. So the film is the real. That's where the pictures actually are. We just see them on the screen. but that's not the source. The source is actually the film itself. Nothing can exist on the screen if it doesn't exist on the film. Right? It's got to be there. So, all right. All right, are we good here?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so let's continue back. It's like Back to the Future here.
Mhm.
All right, Dalet. For those of you who already saw Gimel previously, we're now up to Dalet. For those of you who already saw Dalet previously,
Can I just
thank you for
point
paying
out that you
attention.
didn't catch it either?
I'm like
You keep giving
10
us
pages
crap.
ahead over here.
Okay.
So I need to be, because otherwise they're going to get ahead of me. Then we're in trouble. So, yeah.
Just saying.
Everyone says I did something. I'm not going to argue. V'hinei, l'fishayr zeh, so based on this, tchilas kol havayos, the essence, the core, the source of all reality, l'mayla b'kochos al-yonim, is up in the spiritual kochos, v'sayfel l'mata b'shalom, and the end result is down here in the physical realm. V'chein tchilas kol al-yonim, v'mitzchatchem l'mayla, the same thing is true of all things that change, all things that seem new, that's also up above in the spiritual realm. V'sayfam lamata, and the end result is down here in the physical world. Amnam, however, prat echad yesh sheyatzim min haklal hazeh. There is one exception to this rule. V'hu ma shenageh lebechirasa shel adam, and this is that which applies to the choices of man. Ki kiven sheratza ha'adon yizbarach shemai, because since Hashem wants sheyiyah hayacheles l'adam, that a person should have the ability to choose what he wants to do between good and bad. So Hashem had to make him in a way that those choices will not be dependent on anything else outside of the person. On the contrary, he gave the person the power to actually make changes in the world itself based on the choices that a person makes. So, meaning not only is a person given the ability to think independently, and the koiches have no jurisdiction over a person's choices. People aren't programmed to do good or bad. People aren't predestined to do things right or things wrong. It's choices that we make that are fully free, fully independent choices, not affected by other powers. And it goes so far as to say that these choices can actually change the koiches themselves and the world around them. So if a person decides to chop down a tree, that's within their power to change the reality of the world. So it wasn't necessarily built into creation that this tree was going to be cut down. That was the action of man that caused that to happen. So not only are we independently thinking and not affected by the koiches, but on the contrary, we are stronger than the koiches, that our decisions can actually affect those koiches.
So we don't know yet about affecting somebody else's.
Right. We're not talking about that. He's
the
talking about the
at
world.
large.
Correct. He is going to elaborate on this more later on, a lot later on. But yes, all the concepts that we're seeing here will be discussed further in later parts of the book, parts 2, part 3. So we got a while.
Since every moment Hashem's always keeping everything, so then you're literally changing whatever he has in mind.
I wouldn't say, I don't like the phrase "has in mind," because Hashem's not like unaware of the choices you're going to make.
That's not what I mean.
So, but yes, what you're saying is correct. I just don't like the choice of words. I don't have better words for it, but yes, it's certainly. Here, let me read this to you here. Where is it?
Well, the truth is, then everything we do.
So, in Das Tvunos, Ramchal explains that the entire creation is interconnected, like gears in a clock, to which man is attached, so that when man acts, it affects the entire creation. And this will be elaborated on in part 3, chapter 2, number 7. So, we'll get there eventually, hopefully. Everyone should live and be well. But this is much later on. We've got a discussion.
Amen. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean.
So yeah, we got a little while till we get there, but these ideas will be elaborated on later on by Ramchal. So we'll get to them hopefully more in depth as we continue. But these are the basic concepts. The concepts are there is a spiritual realm. Everything that's here exists there. It's the film, and then as it comes down here, it takes the form of reality. But then there's these things that run around and mess things up and change things and make things different than they were, and that's mankind, or we are given full autonomy.
According to this, everything we do is always changing everything.
Yeah.
And there is no choice about that.
There's no choice.
Change the entire world.
The things that if we do things that are kind of in line with the way things have been until now, it won't necessarily affect the change.
Whether it's choosing to do the same or to change.
Right. So if let's say
the fact that I'm going to get up and go do something, that's a change from, even though it's the norm, ultimately.
Right, but that change doesn't have to affect the rest of the world. If I decide to go eat breakfast, I don't know if that's necessarily affecting, the guy in Japan.
You don't know.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't know that it is necessarily. There are certain things that I do that definitely will, for sure. But there are certain, I would assume there are certain things that are much more benign, and they're not really having any effect on anything else. It's just that if I cut down the tree, yeah, that just changed, there was a malach over that tree, and each leaf probably has its own malach,